Hello, I'm Daniela. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to reattach a button successfully so that it's really functional. Most of my videos include slow stitching projects, which are projects that are done for the pleasure of stitching, just for the joy of sewing and creating something, whether it's small or large. You can make a book, but for the most part, it's not really functional artwork. Of course, there are variations. You can make tote bags or purses or things like that. But for the most part, it's just done for the pleasure of stitching. Today's video, though, is different. While you can always reattach a button or attach a button to your slow stitching pieces, today's video is about attaching a button so it's actually useful. Now, through the years, I've reattached many buttons. Some of them have been wonky, some of them have been off-center, and some of them have been stitched too tight to maybe the shirt that I was reattaching it to. Through the years, I found some tricks. I'm going to share them with you today. So here goes. So I think this is a very common problem, is we have these clothing when the buttons tend to get loose over time. Here I have a pair of shorts, one of my favorites, so I want to really salvage them. This button, you can see it's kind of on its last limbs. It's got some thread just hanging on by a thread. This button seems a little bit okay, so I'm just going to replace the top button. But it's very easy to get it out of alignment or to make it too tight. So I'll just show you how I do that. So I have a pair of scissors, and these are small so that I can get in there and clean up the button, and I'll cut it off first. I have a needle, and I've already threaded my pearl cotton thread in a similar color to the shorts. I knotted the end. You could double thread it, which just means threading the needle and tying your ends together so you have two strands going through the loop, but I'm quite content with one strand. And then you're going to need a second, either a needle or a pin. I like to use just a little piece of this bamboo skewer. And this is the depth that I'm going to use so that my button has a little bit of give to it so it can go through the buttonhole and be functional. So let's get started repairing that button. So I've moved my button closer to the camera so you can see it a little bit better. First thing I'm going to do is just reach in here and clip the threads that exist. Now you can use a seam ripper as well. I just like a little pair of scissors because I can get in there nice and easily. Then you want to remove any of that thread that you no longer need. And I'll come over here and just see if there's any thread sticking up, and there's nothing. But if you look, you can see that there are still the buttonholes, and that's great because for placement that really helps. I'll clean out any of the threads that still remain. And the first thing I like to do, because I can see it easily, is come in through the back through one of those holes, and that helps me line it up nicely. So I'll just take my time, come up through one of those holes, and I already have that threaded. I can take my button, thread it through my needle, and then I just work on really placing it exactly as I want it. Just like that, and I know it will match. So now I want to take either my pin, or in this case my bamboo skewer, and I'm just going to put it right on the button, and I'm using that to wedge the button to hold it in place. I want to make sure my button doesn't move out of position. So I'm going to stitch down diagonally right over that bamboo skewer. Again, I'm going to hold my button in place, lining it up again because I still have a little bit of give here. I want to make sure that bamboo skewer stays in place. And I'll just continue to sew through the buttonhole and go diagonally right across. Still going through that bamboo skewer, and I might have to hold it down in place, but after I do it a couple of times, the button stays in place, and so does the skewer. I'll come back in, and I like to go a number of times, maybe 3 or 4 through each diagonal buttonhole. Once my first stitches are in place, the next ones are very easy to get. So I go repeatedly. I start with a piece of thread that's approximately 18 inches, and that's a nice size. And then I'll just go diagonally the other way. Again, I come up from the back and just make a few more stitches over that bamboo skewer, making sure my tail does not get caught. If it does, I just want to fix that up and make a few more here. Now once I'm happy with that, I'm just going to flip it over and knot the back. And I'll knot it maybe 3 or 4 times. First time I'll just go through a little bit of the thread that exists. And then I'll come just beside it and go through the fabric as well. And then anchor my thread a couple of times. And then from here, I'll just clip the thread and clip the edge. I can slowly remove that bamboo skewer, and now I have a button that's really attached quite nicely. I can verify that it works. And there my button is reattached. Now while I'm here, I'm going to reinforce this lower button just because I've got all my supplies out and I'm ready to do it, even though I think this will last a little while. So I hope you found this video helpful. You can always reattach buttons to your existing clothing, or you can add them to your slow stitching pieces. But more often than not, we all have some buttons that come loose on different articles of clothing or different types of bags that we have. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. Thanks for joining me today.